Hello folks, this is Steve AB4L. Nothing in this episode is a promotion, nor is it a recommendation. If anything, it's me trying to pat myself on the back. That means there's some reminiscing. So I go to Bleeping Computer. If you're at all interested in computer, network, whatever, security, hacking, breaking in, this is the aggregator that is recognized. So it's a Friday. I'm scrolling down. DELL API abused. I know somebody who's in a big deal in sales at DELL. Used to work with her. She's got it. DELL API abused to steal 49 million, can I say that again? Almost 50 million customer records in data breach. Now, I just mentioned that I actually know somebody who actually not only is a sales executive, but teaches people how to be effective in sales. Can you see how I would think of her when it says 49 million customer records? The way you make sales is you make contact with the customer, right? You all know that DELL's a computer and networking and stuff like that, right? How could somebody steal that much? What did they steal? What does it mean in API? Application Programming Interface. I connect to some service that's running on a computer. Like when you go to Google search, there's an API for that. Yeah. There's an actual way when you type in stuff, how the request is actually sent, how it's formatted. Say it different ways. Same thing to log in. There's a user account and there's a password. Those are two requirements minimum. API. If you're doing the programming, especially if you're doing it in a program that's going to run what's called headless, where somebody isn't sitting there typing, but actually is automated, which is what this is about. Now, the hacker who was selling the stuff online, Memelik told Bleeping Computer, in other words, a person can be contacted. Now, the way you contact them isn't like sending them an email directly. They have a way of hiding, but they have a way of talking to people. Otherwise, how would you be able to sell all the stuff you stole? Memelik told Bleeping Computer this morning that they were able to steal the data after discovering a portal for partners, resellers, and retailers that could be used to look up order information. So in the old days with filing cabinets, each customer had a folder, and then there'd be pieces of paper in there each time you did a sale with them, right? But now it's computerized. And as I said at the beginning, if your business is large, then you have a computer that's devoted only to managing customer records. And presumably, given that DELL is a large company, and as it turns out, has things like partners who are authorized to query customer sales data, you would be able to, well, let's read what it says. The guy said it was easy to register as a partner. You just fill in the application form. And then it takes 24 to 48 hours. They approve you. Apparently they didn't do any real check because he said he opened a bunch of them with fake company names and he got in. Didn't take him more than 2 days. So now a stranger who's unverified, who might be borrowing somebody else's business name, I'm guessing, is suddenly given access to the sales records of customers. That's what it's saying. You enter company details, reason you want to become a partner, or you want to sell your computers. We have a business here in Budapest. Then they just approve you and give you access to this authorized portal. And then you find out what the programming API is because you're a hacker. I just created my own accounts in this way. Whole process takes 24 to 48 hours. Once they gained access to the portal, Malik told Bleeping Computer they created a program, wrote code, using the API guideline that generated 7-digit service tags. That's how they, each customer has a number, and submitted them to the portal page starting in March and then what happens is the portal page would give you, show you, supposedly send back to your screen, but it's headless, so it's actually in a buffer and you just scrape it out with copy it, and then you ask for another one, and you increment the numbers. 00001, 00002, 1,000,001, 1,000,002. Got it? As the portal reportedly did not include rate limiting, how fast requests one after another from the same inquirer, the threat actor claims they could harvest the information of 49 million customer records by generating 5,000 requests per minute. Oh, the DELL back end has got supercomputers. They are so fast. They're just like YouTube. You see how fast the video comes up on YouTube? Or a search engine? Google? Like that. Look, every day 1 million people log in and watch YouTube videos. Figure that out on a per minute, per second basis. How many searches do you think go to Google? Figure that out on a per second basis. Pardon me. As the portal reportedly did not include any rate limiting, I'll explain that in a moment, the threat actor claims they could harvest information of 49,000 million customer records by generating one number after another, 5,000 requests per minute for 3 weeks. That's all it took them, 3 weeks. Now you're wondering where this is going. What does it mean, rate limiting? I'm going to give you a very simple example. Pardon me, I got a frog. I'm sorry. I start talking and the frog wants to butt in. What does it mean, rate limiting? Let's go back to my beginning. You all know, you've all heard of Linux. That's a competing operating system to Windows and the Mac OS. Mac OS is actually based pretty much on Linux. Android is Linux for tablets and phones. What was Linux modeled on? Something called Unix, U-N-I-X, AT&T Labs, Bell Labs. Did I ever use a computer with the Unix operating system? I sure did, back in the mid-1980s. Here's a search. How many retries logging into a Linux machine? I could have said how many retries permitted. Unix.com, this is a website. I'm just looking at the search returns. Maximum 3 login attempts. October 18th, 2017. Then he's talking about the setup files for a Unix machine, and for login attempts. What does that mean? All right, I put in my user ID, and then I'm not sure what my password is. So I try something, and it isn't the right one, and then you retry, and you try to spell it differently. In this example, the line is retries equals 5, or whatever number is set on your server. What does that mean? We're going back to Unix. Okay, so it's just a discussion thing. Back when I was using it, you could sit there and you could try forever. You're so stupid you really can't remember your password, and you keep trying for an hour. One after another, and the machine doesn't stop you. But then as Unix got out of the Bell Labs and got into universities and out to the ARPANET, which was the pre-internet, but between universities, people began to realize that security might be a #1 question. Oh, you mean there were bad guys back then? So somebody realized that they needed to add a parameter to the login process and be able to set the number of retries in a row before it makes you wait. And then there's another parameter. Wait 1 minute, wait 5 minutes, wait 10, wait till the next day. Why would they do that? For security. When did they start thinking about that? The 1980s. Now let me show you something. I'm old, so this is kind of like, do these people know anything? This is a YouTube homepage search. System programmer, typical day. Pardon me. These are young people who are computer system programmers, and there's a certain flavor of video that was popular for some time, where they show you what they do during a typical day without really giving away any company secrets of where they're working. But they'll probably tell you where they're working. Because there's ones that said, this is what it's like at Google, this is what it's like at Amazon. Now let me just scroll down and look at the pictures. Because these are from the videos. Do you notice anything about this? Do you notice anything about this? Now this is the YouTube selection. Do you notice anything about this? Look at my face. Look at the bald, the beard is gray. Look at these people. How old are, that's a news thing. How old are they? Maybe as much as 30 years old? When I read this Bleeping Computer article, the moment they said they never give any thought to rate limiting, the first thing I thought about was what it was like in the second half of the 1980s when Unix, Bell Labs realized that there were bad people in the world And one of the things is to just keep trying different passwords because people are stupid. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ABC, ABCDEF, password. Even now there's lists that you can download of the stupid passwords that people use. And they can brute force it. What is brute forcing? Well, this is what they did here. They brute forced it. They wrote a program that as fast as the portal answered, they gave it another request. Or even faster than that. Brute force it. Brute forcing a password login is no different than brute forcing 49 million customer records. It's keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And nobody's paying attention to you're doing that and asking the question, is this person allowed to do that? Now let's take a look at this again. What's the thing I'm showing you here? These are all 20-something people. They were never there. At the beginning, it would never occur to them. They're on the inside. We're safe. Who would do that? I can't, I'm not supposed to program that. I'm just supposed to figure out the API. How about the person who implemented it? Oh, but they're all vetted customers. Yeah, they're partners. The hackers know they're stupid because they're young. I'll say it again. The hackers know they're stupid because they're young. When I worked for that big internationally known, internationally operating IT company, I was working indirectly as a software tester with a bunch of a programming team that were putting new features into a particular program that I was the software tester for. And it was something that was in version 1. And one day I said to the lead programmer by way of email, you know, it might be a good idea, since this application requires a login to use, a person has to set a password, a user ID and a password. Why don't you put something in where you test the password that they use, and if it's not strong enough, tell them to do it again. Anyway, he said, what? I said, there's a thing called an entropy calculation where you can see how much regularity there is to a password. Linux uses that, by the way. And we're talking about something in the early 1990s. And why did I make a suggestion like that? Because in the 1980s, I had somebody in Iowa break into my computer in Raleigh at NC State while I was on there. So that sort of thing has always, oh, but you're old, you're stupid. We got to get rid of the old people. They don't think fast enough. I'm not ranting. I'm making fun of these young squirts. They're the ones that did it. They have no idea what's going on. As soon as I started reading this article, I knew what it was all going to be about. There was a product that I was a tester for. It was a brand new one. It was starting to get very popular. And then they came up with a bright idea, and the person who did this has got, if you had 3 of me, you still wouldn't have as much IQ as this guy. But everybody is fallible. They got this bright idea. Since this was a browser-based application rather than a desktop application, why not put in a feature that when we have software updates, that the central server in the business where they're paying the license to use this, they'll just do it automatically. The computer, as soon as they turn it on in the morning, the first thing it'll do is it's got to connect to the server, which is in order for it to work. And they can say, is there any update? And if there is, download it and install it right there on their browser. What a great idea. Wow. And then we came out with a new version and it went out to customers, and then on a Monday morning, like on a Friday, and on a Monday morning, the system administrators did their automatic updates like you do your Windows updates every month. And then on Monday morning, our problem records database almost collapsed. So many customers were calling in that their systems were frozen. Their systems were crashing. Their computers running this beautiful program. Why? It's the same thing as this. Same thing as this. Because you come into a big bank, as an example, they've got 10,000 employees nationwide. On the East Coast, 5,000 of them log in around 8 a.m. And the first thing those 5,000 computers do is call into the central server for their main desktop application and ask, is there an update? And then it tries to download it, and the availability of the download, the demand was too great and it simply crashed. Well, as soon as you reboot your computer and try again, they're all in there again. It's like the cicadas. There's a million of them and they won't stop, because until they get the update, they're not going to go to the next step of letting you log in. So what was the solution? Rate limiting. See what it says right here? As the portal reportedly did not include any rate limiting, the threat actors claimed they could just, and the computers were strong enough to handle it. So the situation I was just describing to you, the solution was that when the browser-based application was installed on a particular desktop, it was given a random number. And that random number translated to which day of the week, at what hour, what minute, and what second, it would then query the central server, are there any updates? Instead of all of them doing it at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, which was the overwhelming crash everything over rate. See, I'm doing this to show you that I really understand what's going on here. Would you have understood it just reading that sentence? And I've had direct experience with it all the way back to Unix, and then waking up to the fact that they don't want anybody to be able to brute force the machines to get in with a password. And I also had it where we had a great application and we were crashing the customers out nationwide on a certain Monday morning. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. And part of it has to do, take a look at the young age of all these people who are numbnuts. They're experts at the particular thing they do, but beyond that, they have no worldly IT experience. Because they can't remember what was happening in 1985 with Unix. I'm just having fun, folks. I told you I was going to pat myself on the back. Steve A.B. Foyel. Just having fun. Reminiscing. Saying see you in 73.